Hi, Martin here. Today we're going to put on the upgraded intake manifold for the Jeep Cherokee. If you have a 98 or older, it comes with an intake manifold that looks pretty much like that one right there. And since we're going to the extent of changing out the intake manifold, and I do already have a Pacesetter header on there, but it was installed incorrectly from the previous owner. No offense to him. We're going to change out the header to this one right here. Again, this is a Pacesetter header. I do like the way the one performed that I have on there. This one is ceramic coated. Okay, and then over here we got the intake manifold that we're going to be putting on. I know this one looks extremely clean. I did get it out of pick apart. I believe it was $28. Now I spent quite a bit of time with a media blaster using glass media, cleaning this up, and then I put a clear coat of paint on it, and that's just to keep it cleaner looking, because that aluminum is very porous and dirt gets in there and kind of looks ugly after a while, but that's just me. And then I also shot the media down in the runners here, because there was carbon built up along the sides, which is normal with an engine that has a lot of miles on it. Now I'm going to start by disconnecting all this stuff, throttle cable, fuel line, your injector. Label these 1 through 6 on back, because you could switch them and it is not going to run very well at all if you get them mixed up. Another thing, also start by pulling out the electric fan, and that's to get because we have to get the power steering pump out of the way, and it's a lot easier to remove all that, of course, with this fan out of the way. If you still have like a stock air cleaner box sitting right here, I would recommend taking out, it's just a matter of a few bolts. I obviously don't have one, so that won't be an issue. And that'll make it a lot easier to get to these bolts that are underneath here. Now, if you haven't seen my previous video, I'm running a 68mm throttle body. So naturally, this intake manifold is kind of what you'd call a bottleneck. And that's why we're going to go to the other intake manifold, which moves a lot more air. So that'll be a great improvement for this combo. Now this 68mm throttle body is way overkill for a 4.0, but if you're running any, let's say a 4.2 or larger, especially a 4.5 or larger, this would be a great way to go with the combination of the newer style intake. Okay, now one of the things I wanted to show you, if you can, right there, you see that nice little dent right there. Well, when I put my Jeep into full flex with the driver's side tire up, the drive shaft hits right here and right there. And the reason I believe this is happening, the header is a two-piece. This piece slides onto there. I don't believe this was slid up as far as it should have been, and it was welded into place, so it's not like it'd be an easy fix. So hopefully when we get the new one in there, I won't have that problem again. Another reason I think it was kind of installed correctly, if you look across here, you can see how the exhaust pipe actually kind of runs a little downhill. So I actually think it would have went up there further, and that would have helped the clearance on the drive shaft there. Not to mention a little bit more clearance down here. Okay, with the auxiliary fan removed, you can clearly get to the bolt down here on the idler pulley, 15mm, and the tightener for the belt, 15mm. Pull the bolts out for the power steering pump and just set it off to the side. Okay, I got the power steering pump up and out of the way over here. I've got all my injectors, electrical part disconnected. The only ones I did number is number 1 and number 6. Those are the only ones you could possibly get mixed up. Pulled some of the vacuum lines off. I've got the electrical part to the throttle body disconnected. Now, my throttle or my map sensor is actually located on the opposite side because of the 68 that I built. It is not on this side of the, but you can go ahead and disconnect that. I'm going to disconnect mine after I remove the throttle body. Okay, I've got the 4 bolts pulled off the fuel rail. Now, the wires are disconnected. All you have to do is grab hold of this rail, gently wiggling up and down a little bit and pulling on it. That came off pretty easy. I'm just going to try to pull this out of the way. Okay, alright. I was able to just put the fuel rail off to the side. I think that'll be alright there. I went ahead and removed my throttle body and spacer, and we got everything electrically disconnected, and I'm going to go ahead and just start pulling these bolts that hold on the header and the intake. The only ones that are really hard to get to are the few that are down below, which is more of a feel underneath there and get it on, and they're not that bad. Right. I've gotten all the bolts out. There is one directly under here that, because of the header pipe, makes it extremely hard to get to. You cannot get a socket on it. You know, and this is probably just the design of this particular header, Pacesetter one. I mean, you may have the problem with other aftermarket ones. The good thing about it is you do not have to actually take it all the way out. You just need to get it loose to get the intake off. So this is ready to lift off of here. Okay, you can see here the intake is out of the way. This particular bolt right there was the one that I'm having a hard time getting to. I cannot get a socket on the back side. I can't get one of them ratcheting wrenches on here either. So that one was slow going. You get it as loose as you can, and you kind of rock that intake right out of there. And you have 2 dowels that the intake is sitting on as well, alignment dowels, one on either end. Now, there's one more bolt back here, just past the number 6 cylinder, or a nut, and then you also have one right here, and that holds on the header. And then naturally the other bolts are a combination header and intake manifold bolts. Alright, what we got here with the Pacesetter header, they comes with a special washer. This is because the Pacesetter header doesn't have quite as thick of a flange as the factory one. Okay, now what you can do, I really recommend it on this bolt back here, hardest one to get to, is start it, and you should be able to still set the intake right on there. You can see this the thick side will end up against your header. Well, one of the things I'm having a real problem with the fit on this, I've got the down pipe in. If you can see this right up here, it is pointing right up into the floorboard. And I've tried to monkey with it and make it better, and it is just not working out. I'm afraid what I have to do is cut the pipe here in 2, turn this down so we can line up better with the other pipe here, and then put a coupler on here and weld it back up. I don't like that at all. And then another thing, this will probably be hard. Okay, right there you can see, this is the O2 sensor. And it lines up really nice with the automatic transmission lines. Shame on them. All they had to do was move this bung over 1 more inch. And you got all this room right in here. And I had the same problem with the old one. So they haven't changed that part. Now I did get this one to slide up in there really, get this downpipe to slide onto the header really good. I should be able to have gained some clearance right in here. Where the old one, it was down further, drive shaft was hitting when you go into full articulation. Hopefully we don't have that problem, we'll see. One thing here, this was getting kind of close. So I just ground the head of that bolt down a little bit at an angle. I can still get a wrench on it if I need to ever get it out. Okay, I went ahead and cut a brand new exhaust system in two. Took a piece from the old header, cut it off to make a coupler. Fit this all back together. Now, what it's done for me, as you can see, the O2 sensor should clear now. I'm not sure you can get that on that angle or not, but I definitely have the clearance I need to get past these transmission lines. And now I've got nice ample room right here above the exhaust to the floorboard, and everything lines up pretty nice. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to spot weld this. Well, I'm taking it apart where I got these black lines I made with the Sharpie. I'm going to grind off the ceramic. Very hard to weld through. You get a really pretty ugly weld. So I'll clean that up, spot weld this all in place, take the exhaust back down so I can get a weld all the way up around here and weld it in solid and then install. Alright, well, got that little coupler welded in there. O2 sensor reinstalled. As you can see, it clears the transmission lines very well now. Right there, that's perfect. That's where it should have been to begin with. So I actually ended up stretching this out a little bit and then turning it and then turning this down so everything lines up. This is welded on as well. All I need to do is put the exhaust on right there. And as far as the header goes, this is pretty much done. Okay, new style intake, and I'm running that 68mm throttle body that I built, and this is my adapter. I've got the this all bored out to the 68mm to match, and then I had to transfer this for the gas line little bracket. I had to drill this one hole right here, since the original intake uses these two bolt holes. So this was about 15/16 is where I drilled it at, in the center of course, and just mounted it right there. The one bolt will be more than enough, I believe. Ready to put the fuel rail back on. What I like to use is just a little lithium grease on the O-rings. Helps them slide in a little better, a little sealing there. And you don't have to use lithium. You could use probably even just motor oil on the O-rings. Fine. Of course, this would be an optimum time to change injectors if you were so inclined. As I mentioned before, the neon ones out of the Dodge Neon are a great upgrade. That's what I've got here. Now you just got them all set up, and you just kind of push that in. There we go. And got 4 bolts. Okay. Now we can go ahead and plug these in. I've got the number 1 cylinder labeled right here. Connectors only go on one way. And then I've got the number 6 cylinder labeled. And that way we don't get nothing mixed up. At this point, you can also, I went ahead and hooked up the 1 vacuum line. Now, on the original intake, it is up in a higher location. Now that it's moved down here, the line has moved down and came to where the point where it's touching this steering column shaft here. So what I did to raise the line up, I had some Velcro, and I just wrapped Velcro around the harness here, and which raised this line up. You could use a tie strap as well right there, instead of making any modification to the line. Another one, I went ahead and stuck the end on it right here, pulled the hose off, which goes to this right there. It had this little piece on it. It had just this little piece of hose on it. So I'm going to run out and get 1 foot of this size hose. That looks like 1/4 inch. And make that back up. This is your fuel mounting bracket right here from the original intake. Now, I showed you how I drilled this hole right here to mount it back on the intake. Now, because of the design of the intake, it's thicker, it's pushing the dimensions down further. So it throws off the dimension, the measurement for where the fuel line mounts. You're going to try to force it to go to the original holes. You're pushing the line down pretty hard. So all I'm going to do is take this measurement right here and move the hole up here, and then it'll mount right back up. Alright, got that hole drilled. That's just a 9/32 drill bit. Right there you can see there's the bracket with the hole drilled in it, and there's the other hole that I had to drill, and got the fuel line bolted into place. Okay, next. Alright, we got the belt back on and tightened. We've got the auxiliary fan back in. I've had to add a chunk of vacuum hose right up in there, about 1 foot. We got the harness that we had to lengthen right here. That's done with the split loom on it. Now we're getting to the point where I'm going to put the throttle body back on, and we'll get the linkage bolted back down to the intake. Okay, we've got the throttle body back on. We'll get these cables hooked back up. They're very simple. Just hook them on there like that. Push on. This one's just a hair bit different, and a little bit harder for me on this throttle body. Bam. On this particular intake, I used to have my map sensor mounted right down here on this, flipped upside down. And I can't do that now because there's like a bump down here in the intake. It doesn't allow me to do that. So I moved it up here on the throttle cable bracket here. Just drilled a couple of holes and tapped them. Ran a short piece of vacuum hose down, and it serves the same purpose. And actually this is easier for me to service. Okay, get the intake tube put back on. Just like that. Alright, there it is installed. Now let's fire it up.